stars are right, and that means it's time for another episode of The Whisperer in Darkness. I'm your host, the manfromleng. Thank you very much for joining me today. On this episode, the great old ones over at Fantasy Flight Games were kind enough to send me a spoiler for 1,000 Shapes of Horror, the second Mythos pack in the Dream Eater cycle. Obviously, there are spoilers throughout if you care about that sort of thing. If you enjoy what you hear, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Before I continue, I'd like to thank the patrons who keep the lights on here on the Plateau of Leng. These people have gone above and beyond to bring you the content I create for the Arkham Horror LCG. If you'd like to become a patron to support the channel's goals and enjoy patron-only content, follow the link below, sign up for the tier of your choice, and claim your rewards. That would be awesome. Without further ado, let's get started. This month's spoiler is Dream Enhancing Serum. It's a 3-cost Seeker asset with a willpower skill icon and the item and science traits. It has the following game text: only the first copy of each card in your hand counts toward your maximum hand size. It also has the following response: after you draw a copy of a card that is already in your hand, reveal both copies and exhaust Dream Enhancing Serum. Draw one card. Dream Enhancing Serum takes up an arcane slot. Here's your science fact for the day. Muscimol, the letters on the bottle of green fluid, is one of the principal psychoactive constituents of Amanita muscaria and related mushroom species, and is known to display sedative, hypnotic, depressant, and hallucinogenic psychoactivity. I believe it's also very poisonous, so you're probably best not to take this mushroom if you're planning on a trip to the Dreamlands. Dream Enhancing Serum is one of the more expensive Seeker assets at 3 resources. 3 resources is a lot, but Seekers have several ways to generate additional resources, such as Astounding Revelation, Crack the Case, Dr. Mylan Christopher, and Strange Solution Empowering Elixir. Seekers also have several ways of reducing the cost of assets, such as Charles Ross Esquire and Unearth the Ancients. The item trait synergizes with Backpack and Charles Ross Esquire, and I expect the science trait to synergize with Kate Winthrop when she is released, if she's not a Seeker investigator already. Dream Enhancing Serum takes up an arcane slot rather than a hand slot, which seems a little strange, but I'm sure that Seekers out there will appreciate the fact that it takes up an arcane slot rather than the hand slot, since there is a lot less competition for the former compared to the latter. As a level 0 card, Dream Enhancing Serum is an option for no less than 17 investigators, although I think there are relatively few that would seriously consider playing this card. It seems tailor-made for investigators who either draw a lot of cards and or want to maximize their hand size, such as Mandy Thompson and Minte Fan. Dream Enhancing Serum is a challenging card to review because it's difficult to know how often you will trigger its abilities during a scenario. The first ability, the hand size modifier, is interesting since there is only one other card I could find, Laboratory Assistant from the Dunwich Legacy, that increases your maximum hand size. However, the hand size boost from the serum is unlikely to come into play all that often unless you're playing an investigator who is hell-bent on maximizing their hand size turn after turn. Theoretically, if your hand contains nothing but duplicates, you could have a 16-card hand, but that seems pretty unrealistic to me. That said, if you're able to draw a lot of cards with the Dream Enhancing Serum, it stands to reason that at least some of those will be duplicates, so the serum does provide a little extra padding so you can continue to draw without needing to discard the duplicates to stay under the maximum hand size cap. It's also difficult to know how often you will trigger the Dream Enhancing Serum's response, since the odds depend on the cards on the board, the cards in your hand, the cards in your discard pile, and of course the cards in your deck. We can do a few simple calculations that will give us a rough idea to expect. Let's assume that we're playing a 30-card Mandy Thompson deck. Mandy draws her opening hand, which includes Dream Enhancing Serum and 4 other cards. Mandy uses her first action to play the serum and then draws 3 cards, 2 during her turn and 1 during her upkeep. For simplicity's sake, we'll assume that all 4 cards in her hand have duplicates in her draw deck. The odds of triggering Dream Enhancing Serum's response on each draw are 16%, 20.8%, and 26.1% respectively. Those odds are a lot better than I thought they would be when I first read this card, but they're still fairly low in the grand scheme of things. At this point, Mandy has 7 cards in her hand. Let's assume she spends her second turn doing nothing but drawing cards, 3 during her turn and 1 during the upkeep. The odds of triggering the Serum's response on each draw are 32, 38.1, 45, and 52.6% respectively. As you can see, the odds of triggering the Serum's response improve dramatically as the size of Mandy's draw deck decreases and the size of her hand increases. However, it's important to emphasize that Mandy has done nothing for 2 turns other than draw cards. She has neither played any cards nor committed any cards to skill test, which isn't all that realistic. The odds of triggering the Serum if Mandy draws only 1 card during the upkeep phase on her turn is about 31.8% if she played or committed no cards during her turn, 27.3% if she played or committed 1 card, 22.7% if she played or committed 2 cards, and 18.2% if she played or committed 3. Again, you can see how the odds of triggering the Serum decrease as her hand size goes down. Based on these numbers, I think it's safe to say that investigators who are able to consistently draw enough cards to stay at or near their maximum hand size are going to get the most bang for their buck from the Serum. Again, I think it's important to emphasize that these numbers assume that there is a duplicate in your draw deck for every card in your hand, which isn't very realistic. The odds of triggering the Serum consistently are probably somewhere in the middle between the low end of 1 in 5 and the high end of 1 in 2 I've quoted here. For example, if Mandy has 15 cards in her draw deck and 8 cards in her hand, but only 4 of those cards are duplicates, the odds of triggering the Serum is about 26.6%, so slightly better than 1 in 4. Investigators who are able to draw multiple cards using cards such as Preposterous Sketches or tutor for cards using cards such as Mr. Rook have a better chance of triggering Dream Enhancing Serum. For example, if Mandy Thompson plays the Dream Enhancing Serum as her first action and then plays Preposterous Sketches or Cryptic Research, her odds of drawing at least 1 duplicate are 33.04%, which is slightly better than if she had drawn those 3 cards individually. Of course, by playing Preposterous Sketches or even better, Cryptic Research, she's also saving those actions that she would have spent drawing cards. If Mandy uses her first action to play Dream Enhancing Serum and then her second to play Mr. Rook, she can search her deck using Mr. Rook as a free triggered ability, assuming Mandy doesn't draw her signature weakness, Shocking Revelation, and assuming that she triggers her response to resolve an additional target, that is, draw 1 additional card, and assuming she tutors for at least 1 card that is already in her hand, the odds of triggering the Serum to draw a total of 3 cards are as follows: 33.04% if she searches the top 3, 57.9% if she searches the top 6, and 75.65% if she searches the top 9 cards. Obviously, the odds of triggering the Serum are much, much better using a card like Mr. Rook. The beauty of Mr. Rook is that he lets you do this at least 3 times per game as a free triggered ability, more if you can find some way of adding more secrets to him. The odds for other investigators such as Min Tae Fan would be similar to this, the only difference being Min would need to use Mr. Rook to tutor for a card already in her hand, at which point she could trigger the Serum to draw an additional card. I'm certain a mathematician could provide a more accurate picture of how often you can expect to trigger Dream Enhancing Serum, but I think you get the general idea. If you're playing an investigator who doesn't pay much attention to their hand size and or simply draws cards and hopes for the best, you're probably not going to benefit all that much from Dream Enhancing Serum. The hand size increase likely won't come into play all that often, and the odds of drawing additional cards will be somewhere in the 20 to 30% range, possibly even lower, and that's even under optimal conditions. Considering a typical scenario lasts 10 to 12 rounds, that's anywhere from 2 to 4 cards if the stars align in your favor. That's probably not good enough to justify spending an action and 3 resources on Dream Enhancing Serum. If, on the other hand, you're playing an investigator who makes every effort to maximize their hand size turn after turn using draw and tutor effects, the odds of triggering the Serum are going to be significantly higher and the benefits going to be that much greater. Savvy players will try to maximize those odds by playing or committing the duplicates in their hands first, saving the singletons in the hope of drawing into their duplicates at some point down the road so they can trigger their Serum's draw ability turn after turn. The beauty of the Dream Enhancing Serum is that the card has a built-in cushion that kicks in once you start to butt up against your maximum hand size, allowing you to draw even more cards without having to discard the duplicates to make room for them. I think it's also worth noting that with the advent of the cards with the Myriad keyword, that there are even more chances to trigger a card like Dream Enhancing Serum. I can see an investigator such as Mintefan really taking a shine to this card once it's released. A big thank you to Fantasy Flight Games for the spoiler. Let me know in the comments down below what you think about this card. I look forward to hearing from you. That's going to do it for this episode. If you enjoy what you hear, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. If you need to contact me, I can be reached at manfromleng@gmail.com. I'm also on Twitter at manfromleng. Until the stars are right, keep your shotgun close and your elder sign closer. Take care out there, and happy investigating.